Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today, and welcome to the fourth annual MIT MIMO Accelerate AI Conference. My name is Ian McDonald. I'm a graduate of the Leaders for Global Operations program at MIT, when it used to be called the Leaders for Manufacturing program. And I'm a senior director of the Data and AI and Analytics for JD Irving, which is a Canadian manufacturing conglomerate. I'm also the planning director for this year's MIT MIMO Symposium. Before we start, I have a few logistical announcements. First off, we have 2 short breaks and a lunch. So food will be served later on today. There's coffee and tea available all day once it's set up, just on the second floor out there. So if possible, I ask that you please don't leave during people's presentations, just to give them the chance to present uninterrupted. There'll be lots of opportunities for that. We have 1 exit here at the front and 2 at the rear. You can identify anybody who's part of the organizing committee with these blue tags, and if you have any questions or need any help, just let us know. We have a great group of speakers and panelists today. I hope you find the content thought-provoking and engaging. So first off, I'd like to introduce Thomas Roemer and Bruce Lawler. They're going to provide an overview of the day and really the context of why this event is so important and how it plays into the broader MIT and AI ecosystem. Bruce Lawler is the managing director of MIT MIMO, and Thomas Roemer is the executive director of the MIT Leaders for Global Operations program. So welcome, Thomas and Bruce.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here, and welcome to MIT. Welcome back to MIT in many instances. When Bruce approached me, is it 7 years ago that we first started talking about it, and said, hey, I have this idea about MIMO, LGO, or MIMO, and I thought this is going to be great, right? This is going to be helpful for our students. It's going to be helpful for our partner companies. What I didn't envision, and I imagine you did, is to have an event like this, right? Where we have fantastic industry speakers, fantastic academic speakers, where we have published papers in leading journals about the work, all of this fantastic work that Bruce accomplished. I must admit, my vision was smaller, so this is really good to see how successful MIMO has become. So manufacturing is back, right? I looked at newspapers, the headlines in the last few weeks. Every single day you almost find an article on manufacturing on the front page of any newspaper. I don't think we ever had a time where the average American, actually the world citizen, thinks about supply chain and talks about supply chain. So this is a topic that is very, very important. AI, on the other hand, is the other topic that everyone talks about, right? And I think we were the first, and maybe are still the first, that really thinks about AI, machine learning in manufacturing. So again, I think, Bruce, you have been a true visionary, and I thank you for that. And all of you, the organizers, to make this vision possible. So again, big thank you. Manufacturing is also back at MIT. It has never been out of MIT, but tomorrow is an event where some announcement will be made. I would encourage you all to attend. I cannot say more, but it's centered around manufacturing. And in that context, it's my great pleasure to introduce our new LGO's new engineering co-director, Chris Love, who will play a substantial role in organizing tomorrow's event. And I'm looking forward to working with you. Thank you, Chris.
I'll just say very briefly, it's a real pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to working with the LGO program. My first experience with it was as a young faculty member here, and it was really a great way to learn about the role that manufacturing plays and how we can aid that from the scientific research perspective. I've had a chance to work with many different interns over the years and master students through the biopharmaceutical industry, and I'm looking forward to working with you all and building out this great program, especially at this intersection between operations and manufacturing. So thank you and enjoy the day.
Thank you everyone for coming, and thank you for that kind introduction. First of all, I need to thank our sponsors. Actually, I will do this first. Okay. PTC, I think Steve is here. Thank you. They're our anchor sponsor. They fund, without their support, we really couldn't do this whole program. They kind of anchor things, and they also are sponsoring the prize competition this afternoon at 5 o'clock. And so we've got a lot of really good, I'll talk more about that in a minute. We've got a lot of really good students that are competing for $10,000 in prize money, which PTC donated. So thank you very much to them for that. AWS and Arch are huge supporters. AWS also runs, I don't know if Arnie's here yet, our Gen AI workshop we did in February is a full day workshop, for students. And then Arch, Tim has been, a multi-year supporter of us, so we're super appreciative for that. Johnson & Johnson has also been a multi-year supporter, so thank you. StandardBots is new this year. I think you'll really enjoy hearing from Evan on embodied intelligence and what he's doing with American-made robots. And then Ketrix is also a sponsor, and Ketrix really, Eras, who's the CEO, was in the first MIMO class. So he was one of the first people to belong to, or to be part of MIMO, and he was our first MIMO fellow. In other words, we sponsored his research, and the offshoot of his research is what we'll talk about later with McKinsey. So, as Thomas said, we've been at this a while, and it's all kind of coming back around. The reason we're here is for the students. So there's 320 people registered. I know it doesn't look like it. So we're about 10% over this room. I guess we should have started at 10 o'clock, more on student time. But the goal really is for students to hear from industry leaders about the cool new stuff that's going on in AI and the possibility. So we've got students from MIT, of course. We've invited Harvard, BU, the local universities to come and see what great things are happening in manufacturing, because as we look at the challenges that are in front of us, we need more talent, and we need a better talent pipeline at all levels, from high school all the way up. And so part of this program is to get that message out. So as Thomas said, when we started MIMO, we really had three key, our objective is to transform manufacturing with machine learning, and we do it in three ways: research, education, and collaboration. This is mainly about education and collaboration. As I've always said, being a data scientist in manufacturing is a lonely place. You're usually an N of one, or maybe two or three. You go to these larger companies, it gets bigger. So we wanted a convening place for people to come together. As far as the why we're here, what's the problem we're specifically looking at, is we look at the fact that there's in general a labor shortage. Depending on the study, we're short 2 or 3 million workers coming up in the next few years, and that's really before this big push in reshoring. There's a skills gap. We see lots of people retiring, 11,000 a day, for the next 4 or 5 years. And we're not doing a great job of handing those skills down, and as a result, labor costs are rising. So if we want to be competitive, we need to determine how to address it. So fundamentally, we're just looking at, we just don't have enough workers. How are we trying to solve that? Where we're trying to use machine learning, digitization, and AI to augment, accelerate, and automate work. And our goal is not to replace people, but to really create superhumans and super jobs. So superhumans, we can augment their skills and their perception. We see a lot of that in vision-based systems. We can accelerate their decisions by having all the necessary information available at the same time and automating the mundane decisions. And that's what makes the jobs more interesting. The decisions that are easy to make, the machine, let's make them programmatic and let the machine make them. So that's really our objective. And as part of that, we put together this outline, or the symposium today. The very first part here is about succeeding. So we've got companies that have been successful using AI. What's their playbook? What have they done? What are they doing? So we're very fortunate that David Johnson's going to kick us off here. He's been a longtime supporter. He was one of the first people to sponsor a research project with Professor Anthony at their factory on a really complex engine that they make. So he's going to talk about the things that they're doing to capture that tribal knowledge, capture that expertise and share it. We'll look a little bit at the research that MIMO does with McKinsey and show you the results of our 2025, preliminary results of our 2025 study. Then we have a really nice panel. We're fortunate enough to have Sarah, the executive editor of Harvard Business Review, here. We'll interview some of the panelists that, or some of the people that were interviewed for the publications that we've done in Harvard Business Review. And then we'll close that session after a brief break with a fireside chat. And it will be John Lane, who is a VP of IT at Flex, been there a long time, 14 years. And then David to come back and talk about the issues that they face. They both produce at very, very high volumes, very complex things. And how do we collaborate and share these kind of pre-competitive challenges and learn from each other? Then we look at how we're accelerating the workforce. So that's the Gen AI as a force multiplier. How do we accelerate that collaboration? So we're very fortunate to have Justin here. Is the audio okay? It sounds like we may have turned it up a little bit. And he's going to talk about the work that Panasonic does. It's amazing. In their factory in Reno alone, they make 6 million batteries a day. So that gives them some unique challenges. Then we'll have Raj from Komatsu. They're on the other end of the spectrum. So if relatively simple cells, I know they're not simple to make, to giant mining and earth moving equipment. So we go to high volume, making a lot of one thing, to make very low volume, very high complexity thing. They have different challenges, but they're using AI in different ways. So we thought it'd be interesting to juxtapose those two right next to each other. We'll do a break for lunch. Now this timing's a little bit off. Lunch is going to start at 12:10 and go to noon, or excuse me, go to 1. Unfortunately, John Hart is not going to be able to join us because tomorrow is this big event. We just talked about a vision for new manufacturing, so he's prepping for that. It will be in this room. It will start at 10 o'clock. Probably better if you'd registered, but if you want to attend, I'm sure they would love to have you. So at least now you know the venue. Then Steve will kick us off with a keynote. Talking about design. We'll continue design with Professor Ahmed. So this is generative design, so we move into kind of a design phase. Then we have a really interesting talk by Arnie Ragvender from AWS. So it's on agents, and Arnie's going to really show us the state of the art of what AWS is doing with agentic workflows. So you'll have to put your education cap or your student cap back on because it's a lot of content and he goes very fast, but it's very enjoyable. He's a great speaker. Then another panel on how people are using agents in production. So then to a break, and then we'll close out with augmenting human intelligence. So we have Toyota talking about what they're doing with Gen AI. We'll have Evan with Standard Bots, American-made robots, and how he's training the robots using generative tools. And then we'll finish. Then we'll move to J&J, and what J&J will talk about is compliance documentation and how they generate that, or how they accelerate the generation of it. So we start to move into a life sciences section. And then we've got a great panel here moderated by Delphine from McKinsey. And they will focus on lots of different applications, from generative proteins to generating documentation, again, to Judy Sheffield at Deep Health, generating not only the code that they write the code that does like oncology, visual cancer inspection, but then on top of that, they're using generative AI tools from Ketrix in this case to help develop their compliance documentation. So as the rate of change increases, we have to use AI to help with AI to keep up. And this is kind of this double compounding. So I call that one out because it's really unique that we're doubling up on these technologies. So that'll be really good if you guys can stick around to hear that. Then we have the poster session starting at 5 o'clock. I think we have 14 posters, I think. And that will be a judged competition for the $10,000. And then the award ceremony is at 6:30. We used an AI judge this year. So it will be man versus machine. We've got 3 MIT, 2 faculty, and an alumni judging on one side. We've got the AI judging on the other. We're going to go with what the people say, but it's going to be interesting to see what the AI said and how well they match. So this will be an interesting man versus machine kind of competition for those of you who can stay for that. So Martin, I will turn it over to you.